So I have to get outside my comfort zone a little bit, and I know that some of you are like me. You're gonna be going into these presentations, and you are gonna be scared blankless, right? Right? You gotta push through, you have to persevere, you have to step into the gap. You gotta find that reservoir of courage and use it, all right? So I know, I'm sorry, I can't hear you over the sound of how awesome I am. However, we have to have that attitude sometimes. When you have this positive attitude, don't you just feel like you attract people to you, right? You gotta dig deep, folks. You gotta dig deep. All right, so who's the real Larry Broughton? How many twins do we have in here? All right, got a few. Identical or fraternal? Identical, fraternal? Fraternal? Any others? All right, I'm identical, sorry. Identical's better than fraternal. Identical? Yes? So I'm just kidding, guys. I'm just kidding. All right, here we go. So which one am I? Which one do you think I am? I'm dyslexic, so am I the guy on the right? How many people think I'm the guy on the right? How many think I'm the guy on the left? How many don't even care? I'm the guy on the left, the guy with a disproportionately large head, okay? Thank goodness I grew into that darn thing. All right, so if you go back though, as I said, I barely graduated high school because I'm dyslexic. Okay, well that was one of the reasons. But what really got me through high school was sports. And to be honest, I wasn't even a great athlete. I wasn't, but I was tenacious. There's a lesson there. And I understood the kind of power of building relationships with each other. So I was co-captain of our wrestling team and that kind of thing. But one of the lessons that I took was from this guy wearing the groovy collared shirt there, Dutch Sturdivant, my wrestling coach, was this: pain builds character. Pain builds character. I love that saying. I learned to love that saying when I got to be about 30. I hated it back then, all right? But pain builds character. That was one of the lessons I took from him. And then my twin brother and I went on to get into martial arts. How many martial artists do we have in here? You might pick up on this next story. The kind of mantra that we had for our, when we taught martial arts was this: only those who can see the invisible can do the impossible. What does that say to you? Only those who can see the invisible can do the impossible. To me, it's about vision, right? You gotta be able to see it, right? How many of you folks, you've got this business, you're here, you have a product of some sort, that didn't just magically appear one day, right? You had this vision of it, right? And you said, why not me, right? If they can do it, I can do it. Isn't that kind of generally the message here? How hard can it be? How many people thought of that, right? And then you get kicked in the teeth, right? How hard can it be? But you have to see it. You have to believe it, right? So back in the early 80s, when my brother and I were teaching martial arts and competing. By the way, he is a freaking stud. Shout out to my brother Barry. He's in tons of different martial arts halls of fame now, done some movies. He's still teaching martial arts. He's just a rock star. Anyway, love you, brother. We were at a martial arts tournament out in California. I think it was 1982. And I grew up in rural New York. Anybody here from rural New York, Western New York? Anybody? Yep, awesome. Where are you from? Buffalo, due south, Olean is where I'm from there. All right, so we were at this martial arts tournament, and I started hearing these rumors from participants there that the Army, shout out to Army, was going to be sponsoring the first demonstration Taekwondo team for the Olympics. And I thought, that's my ticket out. I'm going to get on the Army Taekwondo team. All right, so for you martial artists, you look at this picture and you see, what? Taekwondo from Korea? That ain't a Korean flag up there. This is how my brain worked. This was a style called Wuyan Yanjing. Yes, similar to Taekwondo. However, I went into the Army recruiter's office after I got back, plopped down in front of this guy's desk, and went into this full-on pitch on why I needed to be on the Army Taekwondo team. And after about 3 minutes of me ranting, the guy did this, put his hand up, and said, son, if you want to be on the Army Taekwondo team, you need to be in the Army. It's like, what? I thought they just sponsored the darn thing. No. So he said, listen, just take the ASVAB. I don't know how many of you folks are Army recruiters or recruiters. Just take the ASVAB. It's like they're trying to set the hook. So the ASVAB is the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. It's basically an aptitude and IQ test. And so I took this thing, and a couple days later, he calls me. He says, why don't you come on down to the recruiter's office? I want to talk to you about your score on this thing. And I was like, ugh. It's like, I'm going to the principal's office one more time. I failed one more test. When I was going through high school and I had to take the SATs, you guys remember the SATs, right? Back then you had to fill in the little bubbles. I swear to God, if I'm lying, I'm dying. I used to just make designs on those things instead of reading the questions because I knew I would do better by just filling designs in than actually reading and answering the questions. It was that bad. So I took the ASVAB and he said, listen, you scored the top 1/10 of 1 percentile in the country. I was like, what? No, actually, I didn't just make little designs this time. I actually tried. And he said, no, you scored in the top 1/10 of 1 percentile in the country. I said, what? Are you serious? And he goes, I know. I can't believe it either. I saw your high school transcripts. But yeah, you did. He said, in fact, you could do whatever you want in the Army. Of course, you need to go through the training. You need to pass the schools. Now, you can't become an officer unless you're willing to go to college. And I said, not yet, not on that. But he said, you could even try out for Special Forces. I said, wow, that sounded like a challenge. I could even try out for Special Forces. I said, what's Special Forces? And he said, the Green Berets. The Green Berets. The only Green Berets I knew at that point was, I was like, not so much. Not so much. He goes, no, idiot. He goes, like John Wayne, the Green Berets. Billy Jack, the Green Berets. And that year, a movie was coming out, and it didn't come out yet, called Rambo. You guys remember that? And so when he started telling me about the Green Berets, I said, all right, yeah, I'll try that. I'll try out for that. So sign me up. Before I left, he gave me this poster, and I think it's one of the things that I carry with me in my head all the time. For a while, I actually did carry this poster in my pocket. I folded it up and carried it with me everywhere. I believe you need to have talisman in your life. Like you need to carry things that remind you of what your mission is in the world. I've got things in my pocket that I carry with me all the time. So when I put my hands in my pocket, it's like, oh, that's right. What's in your pocket? I'm just going to ask you. So this message, it says more about you than you'd ever say about yourself. What are people saying about you? Behind your back. You guys got to ask yourself the question. So I did indeed go. I tried out. During one of the phases, we're at a place called Camp McCall. I don't know if there's any special operators here. You may have heard of this place before, but it's part of the training process. And we're out in the middle of this hand-to-hand combat pit that's basically mud and sawdust, doing log drills at 2 o'clock in the morning. The cadre spraying water on us, and this is what they're screaming at us. Pain is weakness leaving your body. Basically, they're saying, suck it up, buttercup. Right? Pain is weakness leaving your body. Do you remember how I started this whole thing? When you hear 2 or more high achievers say the same thing, listen up. Coach Dutch Sturdivant used to say, pain builds character. Now I've got the cadres of the most elite military unit in the world saying, pain is weakness leaving your body. The message to me at that point was, pain is part of life. If it's worth having, it's worth fighting for. If it's worth having, it's worth grinding it out sometimes. If your business is worth having, it's worth the struggle, my friends. It's worth the struggle. Because some of you are going to get kicked in the teeth. I loved hearing and meeting a bunch of you folks earlier that this is not your first time here. You've been here before, you got to know, you went back, you reworked the product, and you're back to try it again. I love you for that. That's tenacity. That's what keeps the American entrepreneur driving forward. Tenacity. Keep driving on, my friends.